So just one moment. All right, everyone. Hi, my name is Courtney Savi-Lawrence. I'm one of the co-leads for the air pollution track with the Circular Design Lab in partnership with the Thailand Clean Air Network. And we are here today live with our second installment of our roadshow, a 5-month process run 100% by volunteers to help inspire and educate everyone, literally starting in Thailand, but certainly around the world, about their human right to clean air. And so last week we launched with basically a deep dive into some of the science, data, and evidence behind the granular aspects of air particulate matter and what does that mean for our impact on health. Anyone paying attention to the issue can find an infinite number of articles that will point you into a direction that demonstrates the hazard around this key issue. At the same time, what we want to do is zoom out and reframe what actually is possible. Air pollution, often seeming to be a quite abstract issue, is something that at a human scale, we will learn from those working specifically in this industry, this space, about what we can do. What does it look like from a perspective of circular design in the circular economy? So we're really here to open the appetite, inspire ourselves and others in the networks globally around reframing this issue and taking action, of course. That's the bottom line. So big thanks to all of us together, the speakers, but certainly those joining live. And just the moderation, this is myself working with the UNDP Regional Innovation Team out of Bangkok in the Asia Pacific, but full-time volunteer with Circular Design Lab. And then Kun Wina, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks so much, Courtney. My name is Weena. I'm the co-founder of Thailand Clean Air Network, and I do many different things. Today I've got slight video problems, so I will be the voice behind Courtney. Thanks, Courtney. Back to you.
Great, thanks so much. So it's a team effort. And today we're going to be hearing with 2 parts in this series. We have a lightning panel in the very beginning, and then almost a second lightning strike will come. The first half, though, is dedicated to hearing from the practitioners, particularly out of the private sector, that are actually, again, expanding the notion of what you could even imagine in terms of the future of a renewable, clean air oriented society, and what role does business play in that? But then also, how can you imagine pollution as being something that is upcycled into an asset? So we'll hear first from Graviky Labs, famous for Air Inc., featured in Time's 100 most innovative inventions of 2019. We're going to learn about the mechanics and the story behind it from the co-founders and the CEOs, Nikhil and Aniruddha. We'll also hear then from ETRAN. So if you're here in Thailand, you might not know, but soon you'll hear even further that there is a company that is commercializing electric motorbikes and also thinking about the supply chain of what that requires, a little bit about the subscription model around batteries, et cetera, all of the mechanics around what does it mean to convert from a conventional system of default that we are aware of, which is carbon-based, to something that is not. We'll take some Q&A after that first round, and then we're going to segue to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, represented here with Simon, joining us live out of England, and then also Natalie Ortiz with the RSA, who's going to share a little bit more about how do you approach circular design, or how can you leverage these types of processes for a better world. And there's something very exciting that Nat will share that does have a little bit connection back here to Thailand at the very end. So thank you again for joining us. And without further ado, we'll pass the mic over to our friends in India, who are going to tell us a little bit more about Air Inc. and that story and journey. And then, yeah, there we go.
Yeah, thanks, Courtney. Okay, I'm just gonna, 1 second. Not this one. Okay. Okay, so, so please ignore the confidential warning. We just took our investor pitch deck and modified it to become this presentation. So that bit comes from there. So essentially, we'll talk about what we do, Air Inc. and the journey behind it. I mean, most of you already know, like, I think this is a very, I think most of us have seen how bad the pollution problem is and the data and statistics behind it. But we're going to talk about something very new here that we have been attempting to do for the past few years. This is an image that that we took from one of our field trips last year in northern India in a city of Punjab. And that was one of the industrial cities out of many such cities across unregulated sector of industries in India, which deal with a lot of emissions as a problem. And as we all know that, I mean, whenever you will burn any kind of fossil fuels, you will produce emissions, whether they be of particulate kind, whether they be of CO2 kind or anything. But if you look at it from a material perspective, all of these emissions are extremely dangerous because of their tiny particulate size when you inhale them in, or when you are ingesting them in. But if you look at it from, let's say, from a different lateral perspective, they have a lot of material value in them that has majorly been ignored out there. Back in the history, actually, a lot of people used to do this in jails back then, making tattoo inks out of it, or great architects like Sinan in Turkey, who used to burn candle lamps in architecture settings and turn it into inks that would turn into an architectural piece. So the reason why I talk about this image is how, first of all, the particulate exposure on these workers leads to, and that's from a very basic conversation from the owner of the factory, it leads to the overall shortening of lifespan of these workers. But now that we intervene this industry, we are able to command this factory to treat their workers in a certain way, because we are now going to be able to monetize these emissions that otherwise would have been thrown into the environment. So generally, conventionally, the job of these workers would be to dispose these emissions off in the cheapest possible way out there, because they are completely useless right now. Here's an experiment that I did like 4 years ago at in Boston at MIT, where I didn't find many emissions to capture, because it was Boston, the air was cleaner. But let's say if I wanted to simulate those kind of emissions, we took a very simple candle and said like, how can we actually trap some of this candle soot, that is PM 2.5, fuse it with some very readily available chemicals like vegetable oil and vodka, just like a regular weekend hack, and pump it out into a handheld printing cartridge that would have enabled printing with pollution. So what we did was we modified a handheld printer, attached it to it, and the same particulate that was otherwise going in the air can now be used for printing. It was a very casual experiment at that time, and when we put it out there, in the community, a lot of people responded and said that, hey, these emissions are virtually out there. These are some of the emissions that we have captured in past. These are from different kind of emission sources that are virtually industrially available all around us. All of them look similar, but they are not. They have different kind of impurities, toxicities, and basic particulate nature of material in them. But the interesting thing is all of them are above 82% rich in carbon content. And that's where the value sits. So as Graviky in the concept, we are a deep tech company. In the concept stages, we did a lot of chemistry and a lot of hit and trial in order to get our model right. But we were very excited about extracting that value out of the carbon emissions that everybody's talking about. I'm from New Delhi originally, and everybody talks about pollution here. So it's very interesting to do something very alternative around it. So if you see, so what we evolved with in our model was looking at different emission sources as raw material feed for us. So virtually a lot of big industries such as Tata in India and different other factories that burn any kind of fossil fuels, they had to spend a lot of money on getting rid of those emissions. So where Graviky made an intervention is and turned the focus of our work was extracting that material value out of carbon emissions that can be used to replace other conventionally produced materials that are made by fossil fuels, for example, inks and pigments. So inks are typically interesting because they are so ubiquitous, they're used everywhere, and they conventionally have a lot of carbon footprint attached to them because they are made by deliberately burning fossil fuels. So Graviky, that experiment kind of led to the inception of Graviky. And we started doing a lot of experimentation. This is an image from Bangalore where we used to do a lot of early stage development, virtually these carbon emissions becoming an attractive way to start turning it into a messaging tool. On the right side is a proposal by Stella McCartney, who said, we want to turn this into markers that we want to give to some of the best artists in London. So there was a very, I would say, we didn't still know the business model, but there was a still visceral power in the idea that, hey, if we just take inspiration from the nature, in nature nothing goes to waste. So how do we translate those emissions into useful products that can be utilized on an everyday basis? At that point, till this point, we did not know anything about sustainability. That the word sustainability is something we learned after we started building these and people started using some of these products out there. So eventually, the idea and the concept got exposed to a lot of creatives around the world. From what you see as emissions out there, we started creating this series of art materials that we kind of gave to artists around the world, and which turned into like very powerful set of artworks that came out, which I'll talk about in a later slide. Art was powerful because it built a very powerful community for us of people who would go and tell the message through the medium of their powerful art and messaging. But so since we were building this company as a startup and we wanted to address industries that are not niche and more widespread, let's say printing, we said, can we kind of create formulations in chemistry around making earring that can print on conventional materials? So for example, earring that can probably print on your t-shirts, or earring that can probably print on your packaging. Because if you think about it, like black is one of the most commonly used colors everywhere, and it can be used around, and that black color and that black printing is an opportunity to kind of offset carbon the way we imagined in the early stages. So 3 years later, we were able to get deeper into production ecosystems. This is Dell currently, which is using air ink for their global sustainable printing. So, and essentially every package that they are coming out with says that this package is printed by upcycling air pollution. So this is more on the industrial side. If you just Google air ink, you'll see like at least like tens of thousands of artworks around the world. The power, as a team of experimentalists and scientists, what we found was really powerful was when you open yourself up to collaboration with people from different disciplines, some very creative outcomes can be achieved, which otherwise as a company we could have never achieved. So the power of community, so their billboards and artworks like this started appearing around the world, which led to a movement in the print industry that said that we are MasterCard and we do a lot of printing on our cards. How do we put air ink on our cards? So we enabled and we went and we started working with some of the most advanced printing companies in the world, like Gemalto, to get air ink working through their printing systems in order for their printing to become a carbon offsetting tool. What we realized was there are two powers to this whole thing we are doing. One is the actual environmental impact of that pollution not being out there, and then air ink being a messaging tool for people who conventionally print but now want to replace their regular commodities such as inks and print with emissions. This is a badly designed slide. So, okay, a lot of text. But so there are two kinds of impacts the way we see it right now. So currently, we have a lot of artists who use air ink, and this is still now a lot of artists that use air ink on their day-to-day basis as a medium in art, which leads to a lot of inbound coming to us from different industries, which has led to about 3,000 to 4,000, we don't know the exact number right now, of particulate matter being there out in the environment, and 3 corporates on board, which are shifting to moving their conventional printing that they've been doing for the last 50 years to air ink based printing that will lead to carbon offsetting. On the right side is a screenshot from Dell's LCA and a report of how they are claiming the carbon impact by replacing their conventional printing by using air ink. That was really exciting. We have always been a bootstrap startup because we have been profitable from the early stage. That was really interesting. But COVID has been kind of hard on us, primarily because everything we do is extremely operations based. There's pollution that needs to come. There is a chemistry that needs to be done. There's a plant that needs to be run and inks that have to be shipped out. What we realized as one of the powers that what we are working on from the community perspective is a lot of companies come to us and say, can you just do the printing for us? So now the way we are evolving air ink is, instead of being an ink company, kind of turning it into, and this is the first time I'm speaking about this openly right now. We just put this slides right before this talk, is to kind of becoming a printing company that enables carbon negative printing to anybody who wants to print. So working on an asset light model that can be replicated anywhere in the world in a circular way. So for example, if we want to execute this in London, we just have to make a batch of earring that has to go to a London printer. And then we can create circular models by not just being an ink company, but also doing sustainable sourcing. I'll just go more deeper into it. So the concept that we are evolving in is all the different art community that we have, bringing them on the platform, because art is a lot about right messaging and sustainability, and giving them that power of using new carbon negative materials to be able to sustainably produce their goods. So we're getting into now what we are working on currently, and we're very excited about this. So completely open to having conversations and feedback from anybody working on this, is getting into creating a carbon label that not just talks about the pricing of the product, but also the overall carbon impact. So we will produce the end products such as apparel, printing, and also label the overall impact of how these goods are being made and supplied in local geographies going further. So one of the artist communities, one of the persons from art communities, they have a huge following, and they have been conventionally producing by using regular methods. They're now moving to us and saying that, can you use our art to and print with earring, because they want to be a part of this global messaging that we are trying to put out. So we are still building the framework around it, the sustainability messaging framework and the right impact measurements into a platform. So happy to talk to anybody about it and bounce some ideas. The basic inspiration being very simple. I think I saw Buckminster Fuller on somewhere on the side, is like, there are a lot of resources and things that we are not looking at, which we call pollution. And if we look at them, there's a lot of interesting, the way the world is moving, there's a lot of interesting opportunities lying in places where nobody's looking at. So that's it from my side. My Nikhil and Paul from our team are here. That's my name. Follow us on Instagram and see what things people are building by utilizing pollution that already has been out there. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Great, thanks. And Nikhil is speaking as well?
I think Anirudh has covered a lot of it. I think I'll contribute more to the Q&A. I can already see a few questions out there, which I think would love to address later on. Yeah.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks. So next up, we're still in, thank you so much for starters, just kicking us off with a really incredible case, not only of just the idea, but actually doing it. So we're also going to now segue over to another doer on the scene, working in a different kind of way of approaching the issue. And so really happy to have with us Kun Earth, or Soranan, with us, and to share a little bit around the electric motorbike aspiration and company that he is building here out of Thailand. So over to you, Kun Earth.
Hi everyone, so it's live here in Bangkok. You can see a crazy traffic around the street. It's where ETRAN happened. Back in like 5 years, I was sitting in the middle of the road in one motorbike taxi here. So we have this unique service in Bangkok called motorbike taxi, and this seems like the only one way that we can go through the street in a rush time. So from that day, I saw everyone on the street like wearing a mask. It's depressing me a lot, because like, why everyone just like like protect themselves, but why don't someone like try to do some action to make the pollution from the road like gone away? So ETRAN basically is it's from the Mission Impossible movie. Ethan Hunt, by the way. So this guy is making that seems like impossible become possible. So it's come to the ETRAN name. So what we believe is we are aspired to create a new height of global public transportation toward a pollution-free planet. It now seems like no one in the world is actually try to being a leader in public transportation, which is a huge one, and this generate a lot of carbon footprint. from the diesel or benzene that they use on every day. And it seems like it's the indicators of the smart and sustainable city that uh, the city would welcome and accept for more clean transportation also. And now we think that that's our mission to do something that clean, more efficiency and more safety and uplifting the societies forever. So we just look like a baby from the Air Inc. But on the way on the track of being participate in UN environmental program, received the winner from Red Dot Design Award we this year in innovative product categories and be in a list of APEC 25 from last year. So zoom in a little bit in Bangkok. We are the most number 8 of the most congestion city. It's weird because we seem no problem at all, and we still put on our own masks and do our life. And the interesting number here is we are very bad air quality cities. So in the average, it's more than 70, which close to the dangerous stage here, whereas the people can cause some lung cancer or many things around the city. But we cannot do all the things. So zoom in what I'm talking earlier on the pain point that I meet on the journey that I was set on the public motorcycle taxi. We have like 180,000 units here, and 0 of them are electric already. So yeah, the impact of the public motorcycle taxi, they generate about 1 million tons of carbon dioxide CO2 per year, because they ride a lot. And now by coming up of the ride hailing service app, logistic app, and delivery apps, and dramatically generates more carbon dioxide to our air more and more. And everyone get a profit back to the shareholders, have some dividend payback, but our air are being raped every day. So how we can ensure that those riders will love to change to something more clean, because for sure it would be maybe a bit more expensive, or the service is not compatible with the other bike shops that can fix many brands. So when we do some study about the motorbike, we see significantly unique selling point. It's about try to improve their quality of life through saving the cost mechanism, and get rid of their debt, and maybe change to something in sharing economy principle, maybe some subscription, and no need to worry about the service. So from 2006 till now, we test with around like 400 motorbike to 6,000 motorbike taxi in this year, and the result is great. They love it. They love because first they can save some money, and the second is hassle-free business service from us. So what we see in the city is, we want to make our city become more cleaner by provide the public transportation as a service for the rider, and we want to increase more safety nets on the street, also the quality of life the rider, and the end we want to electrify Thailand. We spend in the gasification for more than 40 years since we know LPG, or more than 50 years or 100 years when we know the diesel and benzene. But this year it seems the possibilities to turn the country into the pure and clean and more efficiency on electrified technology. So we want to build this type of station, convert the traditional biker, the service provider, to become our ETRAN rider. And in Thai, it's named Win Saat, which is the government project that the government would like to support around 53,000 units of rider here to convert to electric bike. So we want to be at the forefront of this campaign. So we work very hard with many partners, not just local, but also the regional partner and also global partner. And and one thing that Red Dot Design Award say in the jury comment is it's very innovative. Yeah, because your climate is too cold, and when it's come to some humid and heat climate country like us and some in Asian, these solutions seem practical. So this our design. So when we take out the middle part, is used to be the engine and getaway. So it creates some space where the passenger can put their legs or their bags or their stuff in the middle, and it's separate seat. So it's a social distancing bike, and we can call that the world first electric motorcycle that designed for public transportation. And we want to scale this thing around the world. In this year, we have 2 patents on this innovation, not just the public motorcycle taxi one, but it's also something like high performance stylish bike, which in the beginning we try to do on like professional biker, people who love to ride on the big bike, boom 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 boom. But now we just surprisingly that one market is except for this product is for logistic purpose, because the rider just feel they cool with the stylish bike rather than on a very commodity bike that easily find on the market. So now we test this one with the one of the largest logistic company in Thailand, and hopefully we'll get a good news soon. So um, at the end of the day, what we see is ETRAN is not a motorbike company. We not want to be the automotive company. We don't want to compete with other big brand, but we want to build a more innovative on public transportation, which we aim to drive a better world, a world that we want to live, and a world that belong to the next generation. So if you see Tran on the street, say hi, jump in, catch up, and send some picture to me. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much. And I see you're still in your car, yeah? Still stuck in traffic.
Look at that! Look at that! Look at that! Yeah, it's a public motorcycle taxi there. Look at that!
Yeah, this is the hour, rush hour. Okay, let's move to Q&A just a little bit. So thanks so much. Really great to hear again from both companies really that are on the cutting edge, and it takes a lot of, I think, courage to pioneer something that hasn't quite been done in certain contexts. So kudos and hats off to both of you today. So one of the questions that we have coming in from the Q&A is this is one for the Graviky Labs, but can you say what the market for air ink could be in terms of tons, and how much pollution in tons do we need to collect to make a difference? I'm sure this is probably a question of scales that you get relatively often.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. More than 1 million ton of carbon black is used for making inks annually, and that in a way is the market for us to replace. And I think this is something which I think we missed out in the original presentation. And anytime you make an ink, it is made from carbon black, and that is what we are essentially replacing when we are upcycling carbon emissions. In terms of how much pollution you need to collect to make a difference, I think every single particle matter. So as much as you start from zero and you just scale up as much as you can. We often, when it comes to climate change, we often look at the scale and say, unless and until we do something big, it doesn't help. We believe it's one step at a time, and we have upcycled about 3 tons of carbon emissions till date. And I think that's great for us. We know it's not great for solving the problem completely, But as we move forward, I think we're just going to keep doing more and more. And every time you use airing, a small part of air is being cleaned. So that's what we are aiming for. Anil, do you want to add anything to this?
No, I think it's for us right now, it's about starting the journey to explore the kinds of recycling. Like recycling has always been seen as like, oh, plastics and cardboard and regular corrugated packaging. But you don't think about other forms of emissions out there that potentially can be upcycled. So that's where I think where the failure of like technology kind of sits. So I think once you pave a way in one kind of material, then there are people who come to us and say, hey, can we look at, for example, cleaning up like rivers with iron oxide waste, because there's iron oxide can be used to make, like, for example, red color or like different types of advanced pigments. So I think it's just a start, like, for us, and then there is a lot of different types of emissions to look at. There's CO2, there's a lot of stuff happening in like CO2 domain as well. So it's just the beginning, and I think the platform is a good way to kind of seed that like conscious consumption. Like if you're selling more, like, and telling people that it's not so difficult to make an impact by choosing what you're consuming more consciously. And I think that's what we are like kind of aiming towards, like start an environmental cleanup movement that you can consume through what you are already consuming. Yeah.
And we just have a few, I think, follow-on questions, actually. And so I'll just speak on behalf of Ingo, who's putting it here, but just wanting to hear about how you may have factored in the global warming potential of black carbon, and when calculating the amount of carbon credits you could get, for example.
Yeah, so the GWP of this material of being out there in the environment is like 500 to 1500 times more than CO2. That is one. There is also a health impact of the pollution being out there in your lungs or being in the environment. The problem that we often face as a startup is we are not in an academic research lab that we have 3 years of leisure to like do an LCA right now. So we move really fast. The problem with sustainability and their measurement frameworks is that they are still very, very academically run, and they are extremely slow. So for us, the measurements often become a challenge. There is, like, if you just Google a carbon calculator, you'll find like 10,000 different carbon calculators, and nobody knows which one is the right one. Unless you spend like $100,000 on doing a life cycle analysis. Now, if you're a startup, you probably would use $100,000 to do something else, right? Like not just do a study. But so the way we kind of hack around this is like by offloading that study to the bigger client. For them, $100,000 is probably worth spending that money to claim sustainability messaging benefits.
Yep.
So I think that's one challenge that we kind of face in like this whole.
So just to add to that, at this stage, we measure our impact by seeing how much we have upcycled, and as we move forward, we will have more specific answers for more concrete answers for the carbon credit part. It is something we are still working on, but I think yes, as we move forward, there's a lot to talk about it. Yeah.
Great, thanks. Just want to segue a little bit towards, as you know, in what we mentioned in the introduction is around the role of policy and regulation in frameworks, right? So half of our roadshow from August to December is really diving into the nuts and bolts around the power and dynamics of that. So just wanted to hear from your experience as entrepreneurs working in a space where you're trying to literally build a business case and a business model for something that actually advances a green agenda, which literally, if you think a few scales out, really adds a lot of value for the public domain. So just curious to how you have been able to navigate working amongst certain types of frameworks that may seem a bit outdated, or perhaps positioning what you're doing to kind of build the case for anticipatory types of policies and frameworks that build incentives. So I want to hear from both of you, since we have a context of operating out of India, but certainly if Earth is still in traffic and able to join us, share a little bit around what that might look
now
like.
I'm at the funerals. It's more crazy than in the car now.
Okay, did you catch my question? Because maybe we can start with you.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yep.
All right. So you're asking about the policy, right? In my area, in the beginning of doing motorcycle taxi, it's basically no regulation that's allow us to do this. But that can register. The government won't allow the electric motorbike to be registered as a um, motorbike taxi in the early year that we start, but we never give up. So we work closely with the ministry, Department of Land Transportation, Ministry of Energy, and try to write a white paper to them. I think we submit around like four, like why our country needs this, and what's the what our company can do as a leader to take the highest risk and become the first people who invest in this ecosystem and make the Bangkok city become cleaner. Like we try to make, like, bring all the reason that government need to listen to us. And last year, our hope is become true. The government issue the regulation that allows electric bike to be registered as a motorbike taxi. But it takes 3 years to try to convince their staff, and pushing with some lobbyists from big brand, and but yeah, we got it.
Okay, yeah, so long road. I think what you captured was really critical. You're the investors taking the highest risk and de-risking ultimately the longer term gains for government. So well, let's hear a little bit from the context of working obviously in a different sector, but in India, in the region as well. We're all in Asia. This is a transboundary issue. So maybe Anir and Nikhil, if you had anything you wanted to add to that.
Yeah, so interestingly for us, when it comes to regulations, it's not as much as India being the focus of it. It is more about our clients that are spread all over the world. And the biggest challenge being that there are no regulations out there for ink that is made from upcycled air pollution. The regulations are pretty much standard ones, which are about standard materials. And I think that is what we have spent a lot of time, figuring out, right from on a technical basis, what is a CAS number for carbon emissions, which isn't there, to be honest, in real sense of it. So I think what we are building for is a case that, hey, you can do something differently, and the regulations are going to follow you. So instead of trying to fit into the existing structures, you build the structure out there. Yes, you do comply in certain cases. You cannot sell certain materials to large companies without the existing compliance. But what we are building is a long-term game where regulations have to follow you. And if you see most of the changes that have been made around, be it Uber or all the taxi, Grab, all the taxi services that are out there, the regulations followed the mass adoption. So I don't think you can change the world by following the existing norms. You have to get out and get things moving, and the norms will follow later on. So that's pretty much where we are. What we do comply to the regulations that are there for the existing products, but we know that there's a long journey out there to get the regulation to catch up with us.
Anything else you wanted to add, Anir?
Yeah, you want to add something?
Yeah, yeah. I think government. We get a lot of love from the government, like, to be very honest, but the actual stuff and the adoption comes from bottom up. So the way I see it is, like, for example, we get like a lot of lot of appreciation from different governmental sectors, but the limited energy that we have, I think once we probably go down the investor money route, probably we'll use the approach suggested by Earth to kind of put people on writing and like flushing out white papers, and maybe those white papers being printed in air ink and like sending it and spamming them everywhere. But like the whole thing being for us right now is like bottom up, like instead of top down. So like instead of trying to influence government, can we influence people who are around us and who can probably bring the influence up? So for us, that has been the successful strategy. Our community has been the reason why we have gone up the hierarchy. Like that's the reason why like we are on Dell's boxes and MasterCard and these collaborations, because it's the individual action that was really more powerful for us. And I think that those individuals also like somehow form the government eventually, right? So I think we just need to be in the right place at the right time at some point that would happen, but not really an active focus right now for us. But unless yeah, I mean, if it happens and if it comes in the right place, I mean, we as a startup, we would welcome everything. Yeah.
Great, thanks. From the trenches. So we're not even close to finish, but we have two more amazing speakers and perspectives to learn from. So big thanks for the part A. As I mentioned in the beginning, we have two segments going, and we're going to segue now actually over to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and specifically Simon Widmer is going to walk us through a little bit around the journey in which the circular economy not only just narrative, but ultimately the ways in which it's being designed and employed, and others around the world are working through this opportunity to transition from a certain system to one in which we do have a regenerative supply chains in materials society too. So Simon, thanks so much for joining us live out of England, and over to you to share a little bit more.
Yeah, thank you, Courtney, and the whole team who pulled this together. So it's really great to see the pioneers working on this. So thanks a lot for sharing. I know there's a lot of passion and effort and commitment in anything new, and I really admire pioneers working in this space. So that's great. I'm going to share my screen now to give you a little sense of the visuals. Here we go. So in a nutshell, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation is a charity with around 160 people that focuses on, sorry, I just randomly clicked on the next slide, with the mission to accelerate the transition to a circular economy. And my role within that is to focus on design and support designers in their journey in building new product, services, and systems. Circular economy is one of the biggest creative challenges of our time, and the designers in a broader sense of basically the innovators, the creatives who come up with new products, they play such an important role in this, because essentially it's the people who design the future and we'll have over the next couple of years. And as a foundation, we support designers on this journey with stories, with tools, and with networks. So just giving you a quick overview of what we are providing to you as pioneers and as an audience. So first, we share stories that create a spark and show that the different path is possible. And I think the two examples that we've just heard are a great proof point for that. And the second one is around tools, which I will dive in a bit more. And then we also create spaces for communities of pioneers. So this might be relevant as well. We already had a Buckminster Fuller quote before. I think his work is amazing, as it points towards the need for us to be active and to be the designers of the future. So how can we get started? We have heard two inspiring stories. You wonder probably what you can do about it. And just in a nutshell, we often recommend to complement the user-centeredness, which is so prevalent today in the design industry, with a systems focus. So while we of course need to understand what the user needs are and what we try to design, we also need to understand the system. And I think that's what happened with both of these showcases that we have seen before. There is a systems map and an understanding of how our materials and products and components flow within the system. So what happens next to your design after its use phase? Where does it go? And we see that people apply these principles, the circular economy principles, in different ways. So we often look at three principles when we talk about the circular circular economy. The first is to design out waste and pollution from the outset. The second one is to keep products and materials in use. And the third one is to regenerate natural systems. And then we see that pioneers apply that in different ways. So they, some of them go for new material choices. Some of them design out materials in the first place. There is a role for extending product life. You can go from selling more physical products to services that address the same need. And modularity and design for reuse as other strategies. So I have a bit of a limited time budget here, so I won't go into more detail on this, but you can find a lot of information in how you can actually apply the principles in your work in the resources that I'm going to show in a second. So a few resources that might matter to you. First of all, and that's probably like the one thing that you should take away from this presentation, if nothing else, the circular design toolkit is like a really good place to get started. So you can find the link here at the bottom. You can just Google for circular design toolkit. It's on our website, and it provides an overview of, on the one side, resources that are helpful for you. On the other side, showcases and examples, and then opportunities for you to connect with other community members. And I give you a couple of glimpses. So one tool that's referenced on the toolkit is the Circular Design Guide. It's a piece of work that we have been on for a while now together with IDEO, and it provides free tools for you to apply in your creative process. So whenever you develop a new product or a new service. Then in terms of connecting to other community members, you can connect with around, I think by now it's around 18,000 members on LinkedIn. So you can scan this QR code if you want to, and join this free LinkedIn group and exchange ideas, and as well learn from others in how they apply the principles. And then on our Instagram page of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, you see showcases and other examples of circular design. We have also a hashtag circular designers that can collate some good examples. So that's another way for you to connect. And then last but not least, there's going to be a few sessions coming up at the London Design Festival, which you can dial in as well. And it will be about pioneers who are doing circular design, large organizations and their journey, and then just the creatives and their passion for circular design. So you will get a few impressions. That's it from my side. Courtney, I know that we shouldn't overrun because we have a Q&A as well. But if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.
Great, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And we know that, you know, there's a growing momentum around circular economy, circular design. So it's really great that we have a hub for literally curating all of these different types of resources and being such an active voice in the global community too. So we're going to transition to another organization that is also supporting a transition to new futures, new possibilities, new economies in a variety of ways. But specifically, we'll hear from Natalie around the Student Design Awards and what the Royal Society of Arts is also doing and playing this role. So over to you, Nat.
Great, thank you so much, Courtney. And yeah, really delighted to be part of this event and really inspired by these initiatives, especially because of it being citizen-led and volunteer-led. So well done to you all, and thank you for inviting us to be part of it. I'm going to share my screen and introduce the RSA. So I am Nat, and I am a senior designer here at the RSA. I'm based in London. And the Royal Society for Arts, Manufactures and Commerce, quite a long name, we're all about realizing change. Our vision is a world where everyone is able to participate in creating a better future. And what we do, our purpose is to unite people and ideas to resolve the challenges of our time. And very much the challenge that we're speaking about today, air pollution, is one of those that we care and that we want to be involved in how we can address it. And we are a global community of proactive problem solvers. So at the RSA, we have a research and impact center that is based here in the UK. We also have a platform of public events. And we also have a fellowship with over 30,000 people. And that's the global community of proactive problem solvers. I know some of you here in the call are fellows of the RSA. So it's great to have you. And I also know that the Circular Design Lab is an initiative that was supported by the RSA as well. So it's a great pleasure to be here. I'm going to speak to you about the RSA Student Design Awards, which is a wonderful initiative that I'm lucky to be part of. So the RSA Student Design Awards is a global competition. And what we do is that we challenge students to apply their skills and creativity to tackle some of these big, pressing, complex social and environmental challenges. So we ask the students for them to be the instigators of change, as Simon said nicely with that quote, is inviting the students to be the architects of the future through this competition. And each year we're blown away by the creativity and the ideas that are put forward, lots of different perspectives from lots of different parts of the world. So we have entries from students in over 70 countries and hundreds of universities, and every year over 1,000 students engage in this competition. So it's open for students anywhere in the world, and they can enter the competition individually or in groups. And we ask students to actually respond to our briefs, which I'll introduce a little bit more, with perspectives from any area. So that can be product design, service design, graphic design, policy, etc. And the really exciting news is that this is a preview, because we haven't officially published our briefs for this year, and we'll do by Friday this week. But so this is like an insider's preview of one of our briefs this year, which is the right to breathe. How might we ensure that everyone living in areas with poor air quality is guaranteed their right to clean air? So that's the question that we're posing to students. And I'm just gonna go onto the brief to show you. This is a brief in partnership with the Circular Design Lab, of course, but also with NCR, which is a technology company, and the World Resources Institute as well. As I said, it's a preview of the brief. We actually haven't published it, but we're asking students to think openly about how we can address these and how can we guarantee the human right to clean air for everyone. We know, as we heard from the speakers earlier, that there are already really inspiring approaches that are coming up that might be preventive, trying to prevent air pollution, reactive, trying to reduce reduce the emissions, and then futures generation oriented, which I would put Graviky and this getting from PM2.5 to zero campaign as part of an example of those future-oriented ideas that also tap into circular design as well. And what we're asking students is to be really open-minded and creative and tap into these big questions, but take it into like, okay, what is the context in which they are, where they are, and what is the smaller problem within the big problem that they want to focus on. And to think systemically, so consider the system, consider how their solution might relate or require that collective action and involvement from citizens, governments, private sector, and understand the impact. And really, we put some examples here of how people could address this brief, but the opportunities are endless and open, and we accept entries and proposals that, as I said, can come from lots of different backgrounds. So this is not a product design brief or an engineering brief. These can be addressed in whichever way students want to do it. We do value, it's important to look at the judging criteria, because that's how we evaluate the submissions. So the impact on people and the environment, the research as well, and the evidence that is put forward, systems thinking, how, like the bigger picture, and so that we make sure that we prevent students from just designing in isolation, viability, and of course creativity and innovation. So that's the brief. Again, we'll publish it on our website by the end of this week. And then the quick run through the timeline. This is the last thing I'm going to say. So we are launching this week, and then we'll have an in-depth brief launch in the weeks of the 6th to 15th of October. By 25th of January, the submissions are open, but the deadline for this competition will be on the 13th of March. And then April, May, we do the judging, and then we announce the winners in May, and then we have an award ceremony in June. We have 2 awards for this brief. So we have an award, a cash award of £2,000, and we have a placement award as well. And we are really excited. Please, we're really excited, really excited to have this topic put forward in our competition, because we really think that it can benefit from creative and innovative thinking and ideas. And we would love for you to share this brief with any university students or educators, anyone who you think might be interested to get involved as well. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, both Simon and Natalie, for taking some time to share from what you're doing institutionally to advocate for a different type of world. And certainly, you know, working on this as a crowdsourcing model, right? So leveraging the collective intelligence of people all around the world and their different experiences to literally figure out different types of ways of engaging with air pollution at a human scale. So just keeping in mind the time, what I'd like to do is actually, I went ahead and mentioned if anybody had questions that you can, please do place them in the Q&A. And we did have one question that was coming up for ETRAN, which was a question around integrating solar charging stations into the model. So I'm just gonna actually ask Earth, if you're able to unmute your microphone and respond to that, that would be great. We wanna make sure that we get to everyone's granular questions. And then I'm going to ask each of the panelists to share one closing thought, one sticky thing that you would love for us as the audience to share and as a takeaway. So first, maybe over to Earth, if you would like to address that, how you're mentioning alternative energy in terms of your model, and then we'll go ahead and move towards the closing remarks. Is Earth still with us? Or, all right. I
suspect he might be in the middle of his funeral.
Yeah, okay, busy, okay.
Courtney.
So let's do that. Let's move towards wrapping up. We do have a few minutes and a few last things that we'd like to share with you after we hear from our speakers. But yeah, any final thoughts to embark on, words of wisdom that you can share? Over to maybe our Graviky Labs friends first.
Right. I think the only, I would say, one learning I can share, and which I strongly believe in, like our entire team does, is like the power of like collaboration, which usually keeps us away from a lot of, like in the early stages, whenever like when we are building new concepts, when we expose our ideas and our early designs to people from extremely disparate fields, it kind of results in very, very novel innovation, because we are primarily a company that is built around the fact we will do something that has not been done before. So we have that thing, and how do you build things that have not been done before? Is like by looking in directions that you would otherwise not see. So I think that is one thing I could share. Like if you're a chemist, you should go and talk to waste management people. If you're a waste management person, then probably go talk to an artist, and then that kind of creates new models to probably think about and have new ideas in. And otherwise, I have nothing else to share. And I think, yeah, Nikhil.
No, I think you have covered very well. So I think for us, it's a journey because we didn't start from the background of chemistry, or I'm a finance guy from my background, and the learning, as I said, it's about talking to more and more people and seeing their perspective. And Air Inc. has gone to various parts of the world, and we have seen everybody sees things differently. And we have to understand there is never going to be a one solution fit all for everything. So, everything that all of us are trying to do to solve this problem is going to add up. And, that's what the collaborative spirit has to be. Nobody has to pitch for their product as the whole soul of this. And I think, it was good to learn a few more things on the session, and we hope to continue doing so in future too. Yeah.
Great, thanks so much. And maybe Simon, over to you, and then we'll hear from Nat.
Yeah, one thought I wanted to share is just this question of what happens to your product or to your service after use. So how does your design and your creation fit into the broader system? And the second statement or like recommendation is just to reach out to other community members. So to use the collective intelligence, such as, for example, through the circular design community, whether it's through the RSA or Ellen MacArthur Foundation. So there are tools that you can use and that provoke new ideas, and use those tools and apply them.
Great, thanks. And one of our star volunteers is a part of one of these programs that Ellen MacArthur Foundation provides. So we're benefiting indirectly already from this kind of platform that you've been able to curate and share openly. Yeah, Nat, from the perspective of RSA, tell us a little bit about what kind of thought you'd like to leave with us.
Yeah, thank you. I think the thought of we know that lack of access to clean air disproportionately affect vulnerable communities, such as those living in poverty. So how, I guess it's a provocation, how might we consider inclusive approaches in our work and engagement as we do this, as we engage in this kind of global challenge?
Absolutely. So, right, we have bold ideas, small circles, and I think this will just continue to expand. And we're also, as I mentioned, really excited that this design brief, which will be multi-month in terms of length of curating and getting and sourcing different ideas from students around the world, will be one of the first that I've seen around air pollution that is taking a very wide scope. It's not about, do you have the perfect business model? It's about a large multitude and spectrum of ways people can be thinking about responding to this issue. And then also one of the things that is key for well, you could say the roadshow that we're literally in the middle of. This is their second stop of many along the way. It's really about this notion of human rights and human right to clean air, to breathe clean air. So what I'd like to do is invite, as we're wrapping up, Weena to share a little bit more about the Thailand Clean Air Network, as well as things that are on the radar in regards to this roadshow. So over to you, Weena.
Thanks so much, Courtney. I so enjoyed listening to everybody that actually I forgot I'm co-moderating today. So I think what is really, really important, I think one of the key takeaways that I learned from listening to everybody was the sort of this whole concept of this power of collaboration. And that was something that we had also from the Thailand Clean Air Network had also thought of too. I mean, I personally am a finance econ person by training. And when I looked into the issue of air pollution, it really dawned upon me about how complex the whole situation is. And it will take more, I mean, it will take an entire village, if not more, to try to resolve this, because the situation is so intertwined. So we started off about almost 2 years ago now, where literally we were just normal citizens who realized how bad the air quality was getting in Bangkok. And we all individually sort of started looking into, sort of got ourselves on top of the situation and pulled together people from a multitude of different disciplines. So we have in our team, we've got air pollution specialists, we have an environmental economist, we've got an environmental lawyers, we also have public health specialists, and we've got a broad spectrum because that's what we actually do need to try to resolve this. And we've been moving ahead to try to really galvanize people to build public awareness about the issue. And at the ultimate goal, as Courtney had mentioned, really is to push for policy change, because ultimately we do need government involved. So it's a bottom-up approach to try to move people from the top down is how we're sort of moving this. And so I could say that actually about on the 3rd of August, after spending almost a year of actually doing a lot of workshop throughout Thailand to try to understand the situation on the ground, we've just initiated the submission of the first, I would classify it as a citizen-driven Clean Air Act that will actually try to resolve the situation in a very holistic way. And part of what we're doing here for this workshop together with Circular Design Lab, this digital roadshow is part and parcel and a very critical part of the entire process. We have the Right to Clean Air website. And what we're trying to do is create a common space where anybody who is interested in air pollution, and honestly, anybody who breathes should be interested in air pollution, really, can come and get involved. And what we're trying to do, as was mentioned before, there's 2 tracks. The first track is really a much more learning track, where we talk through the findings that we found from the Clean Air Blue Paper, which is part of one of the documents that was produced by the Thai Clean Air Network, where we talk about the impact of air pollution. It's a very heavy 200 odd pages. We get the key writers to come in and really sort of put it in layman's terms so people understand the actual impact of that. And we're doing this way because it's very difficult for people to really sit down and read through something so hefty. And the other second part of the track is a take action track. And this is today is the first installment of that, where we're trying to get, people from all walks of life, like the amazing speakers that we have today, to really think laterally and to bring forth all your collective skills and as to all the different ways that you've come about to try to help resolve this common issue, which is how do we bring about clean air for everybody. And another part of what we're doing coming up soon also, just to let the audience know, is that on September 4th to 6th, we were going to have a workshop at the Bangkok Art and Cultural Center. And we will have different things. We will have art installations. We've been working in conjunction with the King Mongkut Institute of Art from the Architectural Art Visualization Department, and they've produced about 25 different art pieces related to the issue of air pollution. So we will be showcasing those. We're working with artists who are very, very passionate about this issue. So they're doing workshops with us, and they'll be doing art performances related to air pollution. We're going to have a workshop for kids to come and really depict their image of what clean air is, because we want to move people away from the concept of air pollution to focus on clean air, because that's the ultimate goal. We want to be able to breathe clean air that will not adversely affect our health. We will also have talks related to air pollution. We'll have people talking about the impact of urbanization and how that impacts the quality of the air that we breathe. And we will also have a session talking about participatory democracy, in the sense of that in Thailand there is a right that we have within the Thai constitution that allows normal citizens to band together and to support legislation. And the legislation that I had referred to that we submitted on the 3rd of August is the beginning of such as legislation. We've just initiated it, and once we get the green light, we will actually do the walking down the pavements, showing it to all the people within Thai society, all the stakeholders, to get people to actually understand what this is and to support this. And really the entire process of getting people to read and to understand this is as important as the final product, which is to push for legislation for the very first Clean Air Act in Thailand. So that's some of the installments that I have. And I also wanted to add that I really like the concept of reframing the idea of thinking of waste in a different way. So this, when pollution is wasted resources, as a number of speakers have mentioned. And that's a beautiful thing, because then it reframes the mind, coming from the perspective of of a businessman or an entrepreneur who then sees it as resources that he has wasted, and being able to put that into use is a great win-win solution. Yeah. So over to you, Courtney.
Well, I could not have said it better myself. So thanks again, Weena, for putting it all back into context for us, why we're here, the purpose, and also, again, this volunteer efforts, 100% volunteer driven. We meet once a week at least, sometimes digitally, sometimes in person. Now that the lockdown is a little bit lighter. And it's been incredible. We've been working as a result of a series of systemic design workshops that we met on Saturdays last year, and used this process to help us design around the leverage points for change in policy, and education awareness are a key piece of that. So this roadshow reflects that. We are a neutral platform, and we want this to be a journey that anyone that's interested is a part of. So here's on the screen just again, redirection in case you do want to talk to us directly. There's ways to do so through the righttocleanair.com site, which is also, again, in the Thai language fully. And we switched. So last week was all in Thai, and we had translation to English. And our feature ones, I believe the next one will also be in Thai with some translation to English too. So this one was in English, thanks to our international speakers as well. And want to say thanks again to everybody still here live with us. We will be sharing the recording quite soon. And it couldn't have been a better session to really ground and contextualize what's possible. And it's so exciting to move away just from blueprints, but to actually see it in action. So big thanks to Graviky Labs, ETRAN, and the co-founders, right? To all of you, Nikhil, Anirudh, as well as Kun Earth. And big thanks, of course, to our institutional champions, the RSA and Ellen MacArthur Foundation, for taking valuable time to be with us as well. So until next time, we do hope if you happen to be in Bangkok, join us live. We'll be right in the heart of the city at the Bangkok Arts and Culture Center with participatory workshops for the future, with workshops for children and art installations, and just several different ways to be rethinking this issue. So with that, I'll sign off and thank you once more and take care. Bye-bye, everybody.